Hello, welcome to Volteface TV. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the recent German announcement, the new cannabis legalization proposal they put on the table. If you don't know about that, check out our video that we did yesterday. It's only short, a quick 5-minute update as to what those key proposals were, how things have changed. In this video, we're going to talk about that in more detail, share some thoughts as to is this a good thing or a bad thing, and just really get into it a little bit. So, Katya, welcome. Good to see you.
Yeah, happy to be here and chatting about my favorite topic in the world.
Germany.
Cannabis.
Cannabis policy. Number one topic. It's a good topic. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, there's a lot to discuss.
Yeah. What did you make when you saw, what were your kind of initial thoughts and reactions to yesterday's press conference?
I feel like mixed. I feel like we're probably kind of on the same page about what we think about it. I think it's obviously good and positive to see that Germany will in fact still be moving toward that route towards legalization, but I think it's quite disappointing that it's not really all we had hoped it to be. What was it? They announced at the end of 2021. Yeah. So nearing on 18 months ago that they would legalize, and there was really a push for, seeing a big commercial market, industry and business being able to come in and bring in loads of money for, a legal recreational market. But I think the plans and the announcement yesterday indicate that that's not really going to be the case, and that, it seems to me like it's scaled back legalization and
definitely,
verging on kind of glorified decriminalization too.
Yeah. Strong words. Glorified decriminalisation, I like it. They definitely had to go back to the drawing board, haven't they? Because I think when the first set of proposals came out, we were like, oh, cool, that's kind of Canadian-esque, commercial, interesting. I've obviously seen what's going on in Canada more than the US, but there was clearly some road bumps, and we wrote about it on the site, didn't we, a little bit over the past few months. There's clearly some tension between Germany and the EU. And yesterday, I guess, was a confirmation that, the plans have been scaled way back, all the way back to, 5-year
pilot program.
Yeah, 5-year pilot program. And then, through that period, they'll obviously collect research, but it's very clear that the EU, there's been tension there. Now, I think the interesting thing, we don't have to go into it too much, but I guess sometimes when we think about drug policy, I think we fall into a trap of only thinking about drug policy, and we kind of lock in on it a little bit, and we get obsessed about this government should do that, this government should do the other, and we don't think about what's going on outside of that. Like the NOS ban, me and Jay were chatting the other day, like the NOS ban for us as drug policy experts were like, oh, what, that's...
Yeah, this is awful.
That doesn't seem very sensible. Like, it's not very an evidence-based policy, but when you look at what the Conservatives are trying to do as a government, you think, oh, right, okay, they're just trying to drive a narrative that they're protecting the streets, they're doing a tough on crime thing.
Yeah.
And it's not following the evidence, but I can understand why they're doing that. I look at that and I go, oh, yeah.
Yeah. And your average person on the street is going to be like, oh, okay, they banned NOS. I don't, does it mean that there'll be fewer canisters on the ground? Cool. I don't really care.
Yeah. And I think with Germany, what's interesting is when those proposals were initially tabled, well, even further back from that, when they committed to the concept of cannabis legalization, there was not war in mainland Europe. Like there is not a huge conflict taking place near Germany, near those 5 bordering countries that Germany's got to think about. And I think Germany pre-Ukraine conflict could have quite confidently gone to the EU. We're the biggest player in the EU. We've strongish financial system. We've got a lot of clout. We've got a lot of people. We're going to do this. Whereas now I think just the tensions that exist with Germany and around their policy and support of Ukraine and what they're giving a lot of weapons and arms to Ukraine, that's definitely causing conflict and tension. You grew up in Czech Republic.
Yeah.
There's tension there between Germany and Czech Republic. And
yeah, definitely. And I think the UK is kind of a little bit isolated around the conflict in Ukraine.
Yeah.
I know whenever I go back to Prague, I can definitely feel the tension and the salience of the war a lot more than I do here. So I can see how that's tense, and just the EU has way bigger fish to deal with and fish to fry than
And so does Germany. I reckon Germany are looking at their cannabis. They've got that. I reckon Germany will have gone to the EU and said, "Here you go. Here's our thing. Here's our plan." And they've gone, come on.
Yeah.
You want us to get behind this and everything else that's got. And Germany probably went, do you know what? Let this one this one can slide. We've got other battles.
Yeah.
No pun intended. Do you know what I mean? We there's other areas where we really need to focus on. This is not a priority. Let's keep the EU sweet. Let's not do anything that's going to upset anybody or cause tension or issue. Let's revisit the plans.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think I can understand why the plans have been scaled back. It's not completely, entirely shocking. But yeah, I think still disappointing. I guess we'll probably get onto this in more detail as we discuss the model in greater detail based on what we know. But I guess the pilot program does give us hope for the future because it is about evidence collation and seeing, how the market could actually play out. So after those 5 years, there might be, policies that are a bit more, commercially viable and embrace business and innovation a little bit more. But yeah, for the time being, it definitely seems like it's a model similar to Spain and the Netherlands in some ways.
Yeah. I'm really interested to see what their cannabis club model looks like with regards to supply, cultivation, and I know they can't run at a profit. Well, there's no tax, and they're not meant to make profit. But I find that a challenge. I find that interesting.
Yeah,
I like how that's going to look.
I think a shame around like taxation, like the whole one of the main arguments for legalizing cannabis is so that there can be appropriate taxation, not taxing like in Canada where businesses are basically unable to make a profit, but.
Other than the government, other than the Ontario government, who are making an absolute fortune. It's weird how that's happened, but whatever.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
But yeah, there should be sensible tax, around how we see with alcohol and cigarettes and things like that. So, I think that will be interesting how that plays out and what the kind of coffee shops, cannabis clubs actually look like as well. Yeah. That'll be interesting.
Definitely. Nick Pateras made a great point on Twitter yesterday. And I think it's one that resonated with me just looking at the sector in the past few years, Europe in particular, is that, and it's kind of a good thing. Maybe we'll touch on this again at the end, but if you're interested in cannabis policy legalization, you've got to be in it for the long haul.
Yeah,
you've got to be committed. You've this is going to be a 5-year pilot. And then it's not like they'll get to the end of 5 years and be like, well, here, tomorrow it's the commercial model. It'll probably then be like,
it's going to be like another 5 years of lobbying and debating around getting something that's a bit more viable for business. Yeah.
So if you're in this game, you've got to be in it because you care about it, which I think is a good thing. If you look at what happened in Canada and North America, well, less so the States, but more so Canada, a lot of kind of like, I've been in mining, and just random people that were like, money to be made came in and just, caused total chaos. And now are like, oh,
I'm an investment banker and now I'm interested in cannabis.
I love cannabis. I tried it at uni. Do you know what I mean? That kind of vibe. So I think that's a good point that like, if you care about this, it might shake out. It might just ground people a little bit and be like, right, I'm in on this, but I'm in on it because it's the right thing to do. I care about, addressing harms that are taking place at the reduced prohibition.
Yeah.
I believe in the medicinal value of cannabis. I'm in rather than how much money can we make
and
how
make
quick.
As much money
like
as
how profitable can this be?
Yeah.
So that's
because it will be profitable, but it won't be profitable, tomorrow.
Yeah, no. So and I guess the other thing to note, initial thoughts and reflections are there's still a lot of information to come out. Like there was just a press conference yesterday where they were like, right, this is what's happening. We'll take a few questions. There's obviously like summer break where they're going to come back and provide more information, but there's definitely going to be an ongoing analysis of what that actually looks like.
Yeah, I mean, think back to the like THC ban they talked about, the like 20% limit. I think it was last summer, and that hasn't really been talked about since. I don't know if that's still in place or whether they've kind of forgotten about. I feel like there's been a lot of like
I heard they've forgotten
things.
It's awful,
but there's been a lot of like rumors and things that have kind of been leaked, but nothing's really been confirmed. So
definitely. So I guess there's this. I guess it's an area. I think it's maybe a slight area of controversy or tension in the community, and because clubs versus because I think the popular thing to say, and I think the thing that if I went on Twitter and started saying it, or LinkedIn, oh yeah, that's great, is just amazing social clubs, and that's great because you don't get if businesses involved and they're dangerous and this sort of thing. It's obviously quite a popular thing to say because a lot of cannabis advocates, I guess, policy support, people that support reform.
Yeah, people in the drug policy sector.
It's quite popular to be anti-capitalism, and it's not to say that there aren't harms of it. And we've talked about it many times, haven't we?
I think it's our most talked about
Yeah,
topic.
it's like there are challenges and there are issues, but I think at the same time there are some kind of unknowns about the social club models in the UK, particularly as to its effectiveness in countries where it's implemented, like Spain. And it can feel like a great thing to, because I think at its core there's a really positive thing about it. Yeah, there's a really great thing about it.
But I think it's about how it's like played out in practice, which is really important, because in Spain it's very much in a grey market. Like you can consume and purchase the cannabis in the club, but you can't be caught carrying the cannabis around. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but I know there's a lot of kind of areas of grey market and like concern that you can be in one place and it's completely legal and fine for you to be consuming and possessing your cannabis, but like plants can't be seen outside. You can't be like caught transporting the cannabis. So like it will be I think it will be really important to see how Germany deals with that, and what the legality of having cannabis on you if you're not like in a club, what that will look like. And
the supply chain, like again, it's not a very popular thing to say, but I'm under no illusion that in Spain there is absolutely like gang and mafia involvement in cannabis social club model, and I think anyone who doesn't examine that, accept that, is just naive to what gangs do when you see models and policies change. They don't go home. They think, okay, great, how do we adapt to a social club model? And
with like a social club model, it's because it's kind of still a little bit under wraps, and they can't advertise and have a sign saying, cannabis social club here, you need to know where you're going. And like I was in Barcelona a few weeks ago, and like every 5 minutes on the street, someone's like, cannabis, do you want some cannabis? Yeah. And you're like, well, I don't know if you're a legitimate cannabis club or just some dodgy dealer. Like, so I think the
dodgy drug worker, you mean?
We'll get onto that topic next, I'm sure. But yeah, like if you've got a legitimate cannabis dispensary or, coffee shop that you can go to, that's like legitimate and that's safe and legal. Whereas because these social clubs tend to be kind of underground and you need a membership and need to, know the password and know someone to get in. I think if you know and understand the landscape, you're probably fine, and experienced in that community, in that country, you're fine. But for like tourists, then you're a bit like, well, is this a legitimate one? Is this like a mafia? A mafia club?
It's interesting. But I think Spain's interesting as a comparison to Germany as well, because Spain's obviously like a hub of drug trafficking and networking. Like it's quite different to Germany. That Spain is amazingly well placed for drug trafficking, and you've got Morocco right underneath you. It's like strong hashish supply. Like Spain's really well situated and located to just supply a lot of countries. So I think naturally there's a very strong gang infrastructure of supply and dealing in Spain, whereas Germany, although it's like mainland Europe, really, really well connected, I'm not sure it's as strong a trafficking spot as Spain. So I imagine it might be easier for Germany to implement a model which has less gang involvement. And certainly...
Or having some kind of almost like a stamp of approval. And like in restaurants, they have like the like TripAdvisor, like rated excellent, or those like little stamps of things that okay, this is a good place. I wonder if there could be some, like, if they do go down this social club route, whether there's some kind of a national like stamp or emblem that's like, this is a registered social club that is not run by gangs. Like something like that to show legitimacy and like credibility. Sorry.
No, it's good. No, I agree. I think all that sort of stuff is really important, and I think there are definitely challenges with commercial models and regulated models. But the bit where I find people's like overwhelming spot of social clubs and like disregard for commercial confusing is, I would advocate. So this is why I debated JS on the Vice thing that I did. It's like, Uruguay's amazing. Uruguay's great. I love Uruguay. And I think the same people would be like, I love social clubs are amazing. But like, if you were a cannabis consumer, like go to Spain, I know Catalonia is slightly different, but like go to Spain and go see what that feels like as a cannabis consumer. Because I know you can go into cannabis clubs in Spain and sign up on the day and become a member regardless.
Yeah, and you
and
pay like 20
that's a little
quid
bit. That's a little bit ropey, a little bit grey, but you can do it. But go see what that's like, or go speak to people in Spain and say what's your experience like. Then go to the States and see what it feels like as a consumer. And surely the experience in the States, where there are multiple products, multiple methods of delivery, there's a diversity in terms of how, what you can use. Surely that as a market is more exciting and interesting. You can get everything you can get in a social club model and more.
Yeah.
Surely that's better for consumers than.
But then there's tension from a policy governmental perspective. You don't want to be encouraging people to use cannabis, because that's God forbid people have fun.
Oh man, that'd be awful. Imagine if you could encourage people. No, I totally.
It's not like we do it like with alcohol.
Yeah. I get the tension, and I think there is. I always find the most interesting part of modern drug policy is the tension that exists between the left and the right over the issue. So the fact that it has its origin, like a lot of people get into drug policy because they don't like seeing the harms of prohibition.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know who would like seeing the harms of prohibition. It's all vice. What got me interested in it working in drug treatment, I was like, this is awful. What is happening to people in our treatment service is a problem. I want to do something about it. So that's like why you get into it. But naturally, I think that brings in like a lot of like anti-capitalist, anti-business sentiment, and we end up forgetting about what a consumer-based experience. This is an argument I always get.
And
people
isolating
with
the right, who are becoming more interested in the topic.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah,
definitely. And you've got to. This is why I was going to row with people over Twitter and upset people, because I think you have to be doing something better than the illicit market to eliminate it.
Yeah.
And thereby overcome.
Yeah, because at the moment, people that are using cannabis illegally, they're committed to the illicit market. There's a reason they're using it, and they're used to it, and people like things being easy. So if they've got a number that they can call, you're gonna have to do a hell of a lot of a better job to get them to call a different number and to change their routine. Yeah,
100%. And I think Germany, although it's there's definitely some disappointment that they couldn't just do both these things. Like the ideal for me is I'm pro cannabis social clubs. I think great idea.
Give people choice.
I think a great idea.
Have everything.
Yeah, but also like the commercialization, I think, is where I think cannabis as a product becomes more interesting, and you see that like innovation in what the market actually feels like and looks like, and you see that job. Like I care about cannabis because I see the value of the drug, both medically and recreationally, but also like it's a great industry to work in. Again, go to the States.
Yeah.
There's loads of cool, fun, exciting jobs that people are doing.
Yeah, things that you would just not ever dream of or like think of. And I think that science and innovation aspect is, that's where business can come in and play a really important and helpful role. Because, with social clubs and coffee shops, you're not going to see new types of products coming out. And that's where you can really start to see the kind of the change in the industry and change and move away from stigma, innovative modes of administration. So people aren't having to smoke or vape the product. They can take a gummy or consume like a beer with cannabis in it. And
this all reduces stigma. It's the whole thing. People like stigma's a problem. The stigmatization of cannabis is bad. Well, social clubs just are more of that. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not. Yeah,
because I think innovative products like this, like a beer that has THC in it instead of alcohol, or a gummy, or I don't know, all topical balms, things that are kind of slick and cool and have nice branding. That's going to lure's the wrong word.
Oh my God, you capitalist. That's what you want. Word. You just want to lure people. That's where you trap people.
That's where you can bring in new consumers, people that, maybe use alcohol or smoke cigarettes, and they, that I think that's a way that you can bring in new people to the market and see that cannabis is a cool, pleasurable, fun drug, and you don't need to, smoke a dirty joint, like the pictures that you see with any article that's published online, that like dirty hand smoking the joint. So I think that's where you're going to see real reduction in stigma and new people coming in. I mean, you see it with medical cannabis press in the UK, everyone's after that like middle class white lady that has a prescription. If we're looking at recreational cannabis, like this is how new people can be brought into the market and help, reduce stigma and just broaden out awareness and acceptance.
So
I don't think,
I completely agree.
Yeah, I think the like capitalist business innovation view, there's obviously like concerns around it, and when money's involved, there is a level of care we need to take, but
Definitely.
I don't think we should see it as like oh my god, there's gonna be businesses profiting. But
people see it like that. I think in some what I was thinking about yesterday when I saw the stuff come out at the press conference, I was thinking that people's reaction to this is going to be very different based upon their interest in the sector. So like there's a lot of people that are kind of really pro social club. This is great. I imagine they're people that are cannabis consumers that kind of like things as they are. They like using flower,
like
vaping or smoking flower. They like the community aspect of it, and they're like they're quite passionate about it as a product, as a flower. They get excited about it as a flower. They're probably like, oh, it's great, social clubs. Then I imagine there's like the sort of more business end of the spectrum, investors, people that have there's a lot of medical cannabis companies that have been hoping that Germany's going to go one way, and it's going to become quite commercial, that are kind of banking on it, betting on it in some ways in terms of setting businesses up, putting money over there, that I imagine it feels like a bit of a step backwards for them, like, oh, what, we've got to wait 5 years. And they're probably thinking, well, hopefully I can get in on that pilot. Maybe there'll be a like the Dutch have done, like there'll be a tender process for supply.
So my company can supply.
Maybe I can get in with that. And then there'll be people that are maybe hoping for more rapid European reform that are quite
okay,
good.
Cool. Let's forget about Germany and just focus on the next country.
Yeah. But hopefully, I think you kind of, I don't know if you mentioned the point earlier, it was in the notes, but it kind of be a bit of a shame if this is what Europe isn't bold enough to just do what Canada's done.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's just unnecessary. Like you don't need 5 years.
Yeah.
Just go.
Yeah. Switzerland's already got a pilot running. I think there's Luxembourg as well. No, I think just Switzerland. But I think it's that move, and like the classic phrase that's going around in the industry is a little buzzword around like, it's not about whether legalization will happen, but how that's going to be done and how countries are going to go about it. And I mean, we talk about this all the time, the fact that, Germany's moving towards legalization, Czech Republic's moving towards legalization. Those are, tidal waves that will help shift reform in the UK. Not tomorrow, probably not next year, but, it will help change things and shift the debate. But I think it would be a shame if this model and approach is just copy pasted in terms of how we shift the debate. I don't think we shouldn't just be stopping here with social clubs and basically just decriminalization, because that won't solve everything. No.
But the frustrating thing is for the kind of drug policy, the sort of far left drug policy crowd, that really is all they want. I don't think they really want to go anywhere near commercialization. They're probably quite happy with decriminalization, like social clubs. If it's kind of grey and gangs are making money, that's less of a stress. Do you know what I mean? Like that's less stressful than corporations being involved.
The core is just people not being harmed and criminalized for consuming. Yeah.
And ultimately they want less cannabis. I think a lot of public health lobbyists...
I was about to say that. You took my point.
It was a good one as well.
Yeah.
Well, no,
it's about like what your end goal is for the sector and the industry and the community, whether you want less cannabis use or, more cannabis use with less harm overall. Yeah, you can finish making the point.
No, that was it. I think we did a good job. Is there any good news from this that you think? I mean, it's not as good news, isn't it? It is good.
I think it is good news overall. I think we're being very, very critical with our...
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, those cannabis nerds. But no, I mean, it is, I think overall it's a good thing. I mean, the worst scenario would have been the EU being like, just F off and,
them just decrim or whatever.
We don't want to talk about cannabis. We're not going to do anything at all. Just leave things as it is, which, could have been likely.
Yeah.
So I think it's still a step in the right direction.
It could help the UK a little bit in that the UK, just the lousiness of our two parties at the moment, neither of them really going to embrace commercial cannabis legalization, but they might embrace something similar to Germany, like a social club decriminalization approach with a longer pilot to kind of look at something and examine it. And then, Labour are probably going to get in next, and then 5-6 years time or whatever, Tory government comes back in and maybe goes, okay, right, great, now let's commercialize this and make some industry and profit and technology.
Yeah. I think in general, it's just about making that first step, and no one's bold enough. And I think it's we talk about evidence-based drug policy, and there is obviously an evidence base. We've got Canada and the States that have kind of laid the foundations for that. Stuff that's happening in Europe, we've got the medical cannabis industry. There's data being collected in that, but in the grand scheme of things, there's still not that much evidence around, legal regulated markets, just because it hasn't been around for that long. So I think loads of governments are just like, ooh, well, we need to look at the evidence. Like, it just, but you're not going to have evidence if you don't make changes and then examine the evidence around that. So yeah, it's like I guess
that's a good, you make a good point, because like the public health lobby will be like, social clubs, no commercialization, but it would be really interesting to see what the 5-year pilot brings forward, because that might bring forward, well, actually,
loads of evidence,
like commercialization.
Yeah, we're looking at this. We're looking at this. All these,
Although it depends who's writing who's doing the pilot.
Yeah,
so I think people often find what they want to find with stuff like that.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, but I guess with the public health lobby, like, I do understand the concerns. I mean, we've been screwed over by public health so many times with like the harms of cigarettes, the harms of opioid drugs, the harms of alcohol. Like, so I can so understand why people have reservations around cannabis, particularly when all of the stories that seem to run in the UK are just about like cannabis and psychosis. So, there's understandable like tension that needs to be addressed, but I don't think that should stop us from, exploring what other areas of policy could look like for cannabis.
So I guess that kind of sums up our main thoughts over the past couple of days with yesterday's announcement and the press conference. But it's obviously something we'll keep our eye on. We'll put more content on the website. We'll be doing more videos and discussing.
Yeah, more analysis and critique as things unveil. Like we've basically talked about this for 30 minutes based on like 2 little pieces of information that the German government released. But let us know your thoughts as well. Disagree with us, agree with us on Twitter.
Yeah, disagree with Katya on Twitter.
And agree with Paul on Twitter.
No one agrees with me on Twitter. I'm fighting a losing battle on Twitter, I think. Cool. Yeah. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.